if you are elected to the Senate, I've heard you say that you need to decrease the size of government. You need to decrease the footprint of government. Do you have any specifics in mind of how you would lower that footprint? How would you remove the foot, as you just said a few minutes ago, from the neck of the ordinary taxpayer?
Right. There's so much chatter about how big government is, how much money we're spending. I always try and start with the illustration. We have to remember that there's about 1.3 million people in our state. And there have been about 1.3 million people in our state for the past 10 years. And yet spending at the state level has gone from $6.3 billion to $11.7 billion, with no increase at all in population. Just in the past 4 years, our spending has gone from $9.3 billion to $11.3 billion. The challenge we're having in the state truly isn't a revenue generating problem, which is what the other side says. Our state is fundamentally today on a spending binge, which is out of control. We talk about the need to make a smaller government. Some people would suggest, if we cut it by 10%, which would be $1 billion. I mean, remember that just 2 years ago, we were 15% smaller, because we went from 10.2 to 11.7. And you heard back when our budget was 10.2, the other side would say, this is all the money we need to raise, or we can meet every need that we have. But they said the same thing at 9.3 and at 8.7 and 7.6 and 6.3. But it never seems to be enough to stop feeding the beast. There's a lot of great programs out there that we can use to make our government smaller, from John Stevens' program to do his Medicaid cuts with managed care, which I have not personally read the numbers. He says it'll save $300 million, might not. I'm one of those guys that believes that we need to open up the yellow pages, and if I can see it in the yellow pages, the government shouldn't be doing it. So why is the state of New Hampshire operating a nursery? We've been talking about closing that down since 1982. Why is our state government competing with small business owners? They grow petunias. That's one of those things I think we should look at. Last year the government made a decision to spend $17 million to rehab a building that originally cost $3 million. They wanted to spend $43 million to build a new building in Nashua. We might need that building, but is today the day for that? My next big issue with the government really comes down to the fact that, and this is probably what I'm mostly excited about if I'm lucky enough to be elected, government never looks over its shoulder. It never takes the time to establish the committees and the people to say, was it money well spent? Did we actually help anybody? And I think that today when we start looking at making cuts, because the reality is we can't just cut 10%. And that's a naive statement to make, because we can't cut our bond payments. I mean, should our state government have long-term bond debt? I don't think it should. It needs to pay go. It needs to pay its way as it goes. But we need to fundamentally look at every single thing our government does. We need to make it absolutely transparent. So some guy sitting up on the computer at 2 o'clock in the morning in Sutton can go look at every single check the government cuts, can look at every single contract that we enter into. Because in the end of the day, it's not going to be legislators like us that are going to find all the itsy-bitsy little things. It's going to be that guy or that gal at 2 o'clock in the morning who can't sleep is going to come across that contract. We need to incentivize state employees to cut. We need to incentivize our state to take control of their government back.